G'day, and welcome to my last day review. Wow, it looks like if nothing goes wrong, today will be my last day riding on the Tour Aotearoa. I decided to start a bit later this morning as I wanted to ride in daylight. I took my photograph of the railway hotel at 7:48, then got going. My GPS took me back to where I'd turned off last night, but then kept pointing me in the reverse direction. So I turned around, got my phone out to check Google Maps, and I still managed to ride off down the wrong road. On every previous morning, I'd always check map progress before I'd lose phone reception to check my tracking was working and to ensure I was en route. Why I didn't do this today, I'll never know, but I went 15 kilometres down the road, just slightly off route. I finally stopped when the route instructions said to turn right, but there was only a left-hand turn. Funny enough, my brother-in-law Dave called me just at the same time. He had also noticed I was off route. Sorry, Dave, you probably got a bit of an earful. I was pretty pissed off with myself. I was tempted to just go left, as in a few kilometres I joined the main route. But I turned back, which was into a headwind and up an incline. Back in Mossburn, I went to the Cave Cafe, but it was now full and I had to make do with food from the cabinet. I was, however, relieved to warm up a bit. I even soaked my hands in hot water in the bathroom. My second start went much better. The actual route's quite easy to follow, as there's signposts at all the major corners. When I got to Dipton, I was busting for the loo. There's a sign for a public toilet, which I couldn't find, and the takeaway wasn't much help either. Thankfully, the pub along the road was open, and I was almost tempted to stop for a beer, but I didn't. I'd read the bakery in Winton was worth a visit, but there wasn't much selection, and I didn't think much of their steak and kidney pie, so I popped into the New World to pick up more supplies. Coming into Invercargill, I made another navigation error, but the ride I had along the riverside was actually quite enjoyable. The TA route skirts around Invercargill and hugs the coastline, which makes for quite pleasant riding. It gives good view of the estuaries and passes through some wetlands. At the end of the wetlands, where the route crosses State Highway 1, I stopped for a chat with a local bike rider. This is also the point where the wind picked up, and it made for really hard going for the last 15 to 20 kilometres. It was seriously hard work all the way to Stirling Point. I arrived at the final destination with mixed emotions. Wow, I'd just ridden 3,000 kilometres in 21 days, but this wasn't like any other event I'd ever completed. There's no finish line, and my partner had planned to be there to celebrate with me, but I'd finished 4 days ahead of my predicted schedule. Kat had pushed her schedule ahead and was busy driving down from Wellington, but she wouldn't get there for another 2 days. At Stirling Point, I got a tourist to take my photo and then piled on some clothes as I was getting pretty cold. I could see that Nicky and Marcus were not far away, so I rode back a bit to meet them. I thought it was actually pretty amazing that after 3,000 kilometres, I'd end up at the finish line with two other riders that I'd only met on day one while riding down 90 Mile Beach. Marcus produced a six-pack of beer, and I gratefully accepted one. Hey, so this is almost the end of my review, but stick around if you want to hear what happened on the rest of my day. When I stopped for accommodation earlier, it seemed like a good idea, as I knew there wasn't much at Bluff. But now I'd have a long 36-kilometre slog back to Invercargill when I could have stayed the night in Bluff. Before leaving, I had half a dozen Bluff oysters and some chips at a roadside cafe. The cafe was just about to close, so I was extremely lucky to be their last customer of the day. The ride back was pretty slow, but it was into an awesome sunset, and the moon was rising also. I was knackered, but this was just great. Back in Invercargill, I went to the supermarket for some beer, but was rudely surprised when they didn't sell alcohol. I was baffled. I eventually found a bottle shop, and then later discovered that Invercargill has some unusual liquor laws. I finally got to my campgrounds at about 10 p.m, where I tried to have a shower, but I hadn't paid attention on how to enter my special code for the hot water, so I ducked under the cold shower, but just really briefly. I don't think I'd even finished my second beer when I crawled into bed. I didn't even notice I had a long sleeve merino top on, and the bed had all the winter bedding on. This would normally be just too hot for me, but I slept solid till 8 a.m. the next morning. Thanks ever so much for watching. I hope you've enjoyed these videos, or they've at least been useful to someone. I'm intending to add a few more videos about my TA experience and gear, etc. Plus, I hope you'll join me for my next adventure. Bye for now.